Hello and welcome to the Student StarCraft AI Tournament Weekly Broadcast. This is Nightcat. I will be your host for today, and today I am able to go back and cast the replays that were recommended off of the SSCAIT server, as that did come back up since the last cast that was broadcast here on YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into those. Starting us off today, we have Mad Mix P spawning as the white Protoss down at the bottom spawn of Icarus, and over on the left side we have McRaveZ spawning as the red Zerg. So it looks like the first scout going over directly to this main here, second scout coming down to the bottom right's natural. Probe Scout is out on the way for Mad Mix P here. Spawning pool's working on its way being done here. We're going to go ahead and get the natural hatchery now going as well. So we're doing like a 9 pool into that natural hatchery and going ahead and getting the extractor as well. Zerglings on the way. We've got a 2-gate out of Mad Mix P. Third and fourth pile, or actually, no, sorry, second and third pylon on the way. No gas yet, just going ahead and getting the Zealots, I think. Yeah, it looks like Mad Mix P going to get a last scout here. Core on the way, but no assimilator yet. Looks like the Zealots are going to go ahead and back up, interestingly enough, to the Nexus. Going to give up that ramp there. Another pylon coming down and some more Zealots and probes being built. Lair on the way for McRaveZ. McRaveZ also choosing to be defensive here. Gonna chill around this ramp just to make sure nothing can run by and get up into the main. Looks like a few Zealots are maybe gonna start to come out here. Everlord doing a little happy overboard dance there above that high ground. McRaveZ's just gonna stay defensive here. I'm actually not sure if Mad Mix P has actually found McRaveZ. It looks like the Zealots are going to the wrong start location. I thought the probe had already scouted up here, but that may not be the case. They are going to incidentally find this third, unless maybe that's what they were looking for, but it's just the one staying up there and fighting. And there's Zealots coming over to here where Mix P has already scouted, so this may just be expansion denial here. And we can see with the HP bar that the single Zealot's damage here is keeping up with the rate at which the life would grow there. McRaveZ does have a Spire. Mulisks are on the way, so maybe gonna be able to stop this Zealot from tearing this hatchery down, but it is getting a little bit close. I'm a little bit worried about that there. Mulisks are on the way. Will they get to it in time? They do not. The third actually gets torn down by a single Zealot there. It's a bit unfortunate. McRaveZ did not want to use the Zerglings for that. Now we do have some of the units dancing out front. We have the Mulisks looking to dive in. There is no Stargate just yet, so we won't be seeing Corsairs in response to this. Mad Mix P's gonna have to be really careful with their cannons. Looks like the Mulisks find an opening here and are gonna be sniping some workers. One lone Dragoon coming down here to try and stave off this damage. The Mulisks doing a good job prioritizing those workers. Mad Mix P down to 22 workers now, losing more as it tries to transfer more when it's not quite safe down there. Some more cannons going down. This one, actually no, I think this is a rowboat bay on the left. I was hoping that would be a cannon because this whole area here is kind of exposed, but the army is sitting over here on that left side, so that will sort of defend it. But I mean, there's 4 Dragoons, but they take full damage to their shields. Looks like McRaveZ, though, is going to go ahead and retake this 12 o'clock position. Now, Mad Mix P trying to do a little bit of a move out, but is going to fall back as the Zerglings here looking, or sorry, not the Zerglings, the Mulisks here looking for openings, looking to see what they can do, but there are the couple of cannons, well, I guess it's 3 cannons up at the front, and these 2 here doing a pretty good job of keeping the Mulisks zoned out, but gonna, the Mulisks find some space here in the main. to really work on those probe counts. And this Mutalisk count is just really starting to get out of hand. There's 14 Mutalisks on the field right now for McGrave Z. They're maybe having a little bit of trouble here firing on the Dragoons, but there's just not many Dragoons here. Stargate is on the way now. They're just finishing up. But we still don't see any Corsair production, and the Mutalisks being sort of herded over the cannon, so not too bad for Mad Mix P, but down to 25 workers. Same amount of workers as McGrave Z. Not exactly where you want to be as Protoss. But the fact that Mad Mix P is still on 2 base while McGrave Z is just on 3 base is not necessarily bad. Mad Mix P is going to have to start thinking about taking a third at some point. Some forward pylons being built for supply. Out toward the middle of the map, a little bit exposed, we have the Mutalisks here trying to find some more space. The nice pick off of that observer. Just very quickly down there. You can see High Templars are out on the field. Storm not researched yet though. And there's a very quick pick off. Ooh. Of the High Templar and that Corsair both going down. So these Mutalisks do putting in a lot of work here. When the Mutalisk numbers are this high, you really need like multiple Corsair to really be able to attempt to do anything to them. And with the spreading that AI can do, I'm not sure if there really is much that Corsairs can do. Here we have them diving in, but like, see if there were multiple Corsairs getting those couple of initial hits while everything was clumped up, that probably would have been a lot of damage. But the Corsair is pushing them back. The Mutalisk ball, interestingly enough, in the way that it moves, it looks very cool. Not necessarily wanting to engage, perhaps because there are a few weak ones, or, you know, it's just deciding not to take that fight. I think there's enough Mutalisks here though that they could pretty much one-shot a Corsair. There's 22 Mutalisks, which is quite a lot. Back home, it looks like we are getting a den and an evolution chamber, so looks like we're not teching up to Hive just yet, but gonna go ahead and start to be able to get those upgrades and tech switch into Hydras here. Now the Mutalisks diving back in on this natural mineral line, which is something that McGrave Z has been doing very well here, cleaning up and taking down the worker count for Mad Mix P. Mad Mix P trying to take an expansion here, but there is a burrowed Zergling that's going to be in the way here and sort of prevent that for now until an observer can get over there. Something that could take care of that. Good storm dodge there by McGrave Z, very quickly diving out of the storm with those Mutalisks, and now diving back in on these probes here, and again avoiding conflict with the Corsair while probably having the numbers to very quickly take that Corsair out. And the Mutalisk Tornado here is sort of just having to back off for the moment. Not a lot of ground forces just yet for McGrave Z, but that transition appears to be happening. Ground army for Mad Mix P is kind of in an interesting space here too. It looks like, okay, so can't quite clear that Zergling, so just gonna go ahead and expand that at a different location. I like that it's given up at the spot where it could not take, and is gonna head and just take another base. These Mutalisks though, I heard another High Templar die, really pushing back this Protoss army and sort of just keeping it in the main. There's a lot of exposed pylons that could just be sort of taken out though. The lurkers don't quite want to commit to anything though. We have another base coming up for McGrave Z, and we have quite a sneaky base here. We're Mad Mix P behind enemy lines, going ahead and trying to take this base here, so that will be interesting to see if it pays off, if it gets caught by McGrave Z, or what we'll have here. Yeah, the army just kind of tripping over itself here in the natural. Seems to be very defensive because of the threat of the Mutalisks, and McGrave Z seems to have a pretty strong army here. I think in conjunction with the Mutalisks really could clean up, like, you know, these outer pylons, could probably, this probe transfer though gonna lure McGrave Z to find this base potentially, but looks like not quite going to. And now Mad Mix P pulling the trigger, moving out a bit here, but in a situation you generally don't want to be, I think, as Protoss, where the supply is very much in Zerg's favor. The main has mined out, the natural has no workers. Okay, so this base here, the 4th, got found and cleared. The 3rd, and while not found just yet, could very easily be cleaned up at a moment's notice. So MadMixP really needs to do something and get something going here. Trying to take this bottom left base, but again, there is a burrowed circling, and on top of that, there's a Meatless Cloud here that could just to snipe that at any moment. So not a very good position for MadMixP here. It's like MadMixP trying to move its army out, but the SimCity is getting in the way just a little bit. Trying to come across this bridge here, but there's just way too much Zerg there. I don't think they're really going to be able to do much. Looks like the Mutalisks are kind of stuck in not wanting to engage. And here we have the Storm coming down. Server coming up to help clear the Lurkers, but the Lurkers did get a good number of shots off before getting cleaned up here. There's a Hydralisk. Okay. Like, there's a Lurker somewhere, like, firing off splines, or the spines, but I couldn't, like, exactly see where. McGravesy starting to take over the map, too, now starting to kind of clear these up. We've actually got a scout out now for MadMixP. But scouts can only single target damage, and yeah, it gets very quickly picked off. I'm not going to do a whole lot. I like the move to bring in Dark Templars, but it does get cleaned up by the, or I think one died maybe due to the Lurker splash damage, but maybe not, as there is still a Dark Templar here, and they are pushing back, but as soon as detection is available, like here at this sunken line, yeah, gonna have a bit of trouble here. But Gravesy having a bit of a traffic jam here in the main. Defilers are out now, though. So we may be seeing some Swarm and or... yeah, we're seeing a lot of Swarm coming down here now. Archons, though, can work. Ooh, nice shot on the Mutalisks there for a moment. Just 12 Mutalisks left for McGravesy out on the field. There is another Nexus going down, it looks like in that bottom right expansion. The Mutalisks, though, just cleaning up probes here. MadMixP almost out of money. The third over on the right side of the map now cleaned up. Cannons getting some shots on the Mutalisks, but really, the probe count 7 workers. This is going to be like the only mining base for MadMixP. And I think that's pretty much going to spell the end here. As MadMixP is trying to stay alive here, trying to get this expansion up. Now has it up at just 24, 32, 40 minerals. It gets spotted by McGravesy. McGravesy is going to very quickly dive in here to clean this up. Yeah, MadMixP is just going to be out of money. So good job by McGravesy here, just denying those expansions. There was the one that was up longer than it should have been, but still, once it got found, it was quickly cleaned up. We'll go ahead and speed up to 4 times here, as it's now just a waiting game for when McGravesy decides to move in. It looks like at 200 supply, McGravesy is going to dive. Like the trail of lurkers here, it's more as they went just more and more forward, almost like leapfrogging tanks. Swarms coming down, but okay, now here comes some Zerglings to try and take advantage of the swarms here. The natural gets cleaned up, and now the main base will. Good try by MadMixP, but just didn't really have a great answer to the Mutalisks for a while, and just kept losing workers and just really wasn't able to gain map control to take a base. Our next game here, from the recommended games, we have Stardust spawning as the yellow Protoss at the top right of La Mancha, and down on the bottom left as the blue Terran, we have Crazio. So a couple of big sluggers here going at it. both highly rated on pretty much any ladder that they get onto. A little bit of TVP PVT action going on. We've got the early Pylon Scout coming out from Stardust. Crazy Art has actually scouted early too, scouting the middle. So perhaps just an early scout in order to make sure that there is no sort of proxy or cheese play happening, which we could see as observers of the replay that the gateway here is being constructed. And here we have a little bit of a chase going on here between the workers. And now a little fast expand here prior to the Rex. I think this was a 14cc. So that would be a good reason to scout early, just to make sure that, you know, if there is any sort of proxy thing going on, this is going to fall flat on its face. So you need to make sure that that is not happening in order to get the play off. So this Zealot does not care that there's an enemy SCV in the base. The SCV actually went up right up against the, right into range, and the Zealot didn't even take a swing at the SCV. He's just sitting there. Perhaps it's his smoke break or something. Don't really know for sure, but the Dragoon will go ahead and hunt it down. And now that it is hunted down, the Zealot and the Dragoon together are going to go across the map to where Crazio is located. The bunker's already up, though. There's already a couple of Marines loaded in it, so more than likely not really going to be able to, like, say, break this down or anything like that. Second gas coming up online, factory coming down for Crazio here, throwing down another supply depot as well. Meanwhile, Stardust going and getting the natural for themselves, a couple of pylons, Nexus, looks like a second scout gets into the base of Stardust. Will probably be cleaned up by the next Dragoon that comes out here. And that will be quickly cleaned up. Got another Stargate coming, or not Stargate, sorry, wait. Another Gateway. Ooh, I was calling that the wrong thing. Took me a moment to get there, though. Another Gateway coming out. We've got the three SCVs here ready to repair that bunker in case there's any harassment, but with the siege mode coming up, Stardust immediately pulls back before even a shot gets fired from that siege tank, just to make sure that it is indeed safe. Getting a nice arc here made. Artistus is Bane when Protoss just sits there in an arc. Now with the barracks in the siege mode here, going to be able to sort of slowly push this back a bit with the expanded vision that is gained from the floating barracks. You also get the fun siege and unsiege happening here. Now the concave kind of became more of like a line. Oh, we get a nice little dive here. Gonna take out that forward tank and the second tank even. But the tank's on the high ground doing a good job of dishing out the damage. The SCV's rushing in. Also blocked the retreat. So Stardust taking some losses there, but did take out a few of the tanks. But maybe losing a bit too many Dragoons itself here, and a couple are very, very heavily damaged. Another one taking some hull damage there as well, but there are two new ones here on the field ready to go. We've got more reinforcements streaming across. Third base has been taken by Stardust as well, and there's the Robotics Facility Center. We've got the Observatory coming out. So, looks like all pretty standard play here from Stardust. So far, fourth base on the way. Crazio can't quite get a third just yet, trying to push this Protoss army back. There is a SCV somehow on the outside of the arc. Not exactly sure how it got out there. Looks like it wants to come back in instead of doing something like expand Terran building. Floating buildings on fire, but okay, now the barracks is starting to burn down, so going to need to repair that at least a little bit back up into yellow so that way it stops burning down. Looks like those repairs are not quite happening yet, so maybe when it gets a little bit closer is when those repairs will happen. Buildings being forced to come back here. Stardust doing a good job of keeping this contained, but now it's kind of lost this right section. There is a path out for units. We'll go ahead and mine this up and now go ahead and take this base. I mean, there is this other open path here that Stardust could take, but the army is mostly over here, which Crazier knows, so not too afraid of something coming around that side. What will the next tech choice be, though? That we have a Stargate out. Okay, Arbiter tech is out, but we don't have any Arbiters yet. Do we have Stasis? No. So I wonder if we're going to see Arbiters or not. I feel like Arbiters with Stasis or possibly even Recall would be a nice touch here. Yeah, as it is, Stardust is just really throwing away tons of army here to the Terran. Which is just not what you want to do in this situation. They do find the third though, and they take that alternate path, clean it up, while expanding to a fifth, but the fifth is in a little bit of trouble due to a couple of vultures. These two Dragoons should be able to clean it up though. Yeah, Crazio wants to engage and secure this third, but the bridge is causing a little bit of a problem for its units. But the Protoss army is sort of trapped because it seems to be afraid to engage with these vultures and wants to sort of dive in here. But the army being in this positioning might actually work against Stardust. There is an Arbiter out though, and it's kind of floating very far from the units, but now it has joined them back. And we've got another Arbiter on the way. We have Stasis. Almost finished now, if not finished at this point. Buildings are floating kind of far ahead. The engineering bay gets taken out, so that will need to be rebuilt. Crazy though, still just stuck on 2 base. Gonna go ahead and try and take this third, but again, the third's not really all that defended. Actually, on the other side of the arc that is being created here by Stardust. See what Stardust decides to do as the supplies get closer. There was a stasis here on a bunch of tanks in the back, but there's a lot of tanks toward the front that are stasis. Then this third base gets found by Stardust. Stardust trying to devote some resources to it, but Crazio with this huge tank count. If we take a look here, we got 27 tanks, which is just a ridiculous amount. But I mean, ridiculous in a good way. Is pushing this Protoss army back. It just feels like there's really not a whole lot of army here for Stardust right now. A lot of Dragoons being built, but units keep getting bled here, like just on various spots. There's a small little detachment trying to cross this bridge. Here's a big chunk of reinforcements here, but again, they're kind of splitting between 2 different positions, and it's really allowing Crazio to push forward with this, not retaking this old third base here. And again, another chunk of Stardust's army is going to be cut off from essentially the rest of the force. But here we have a bit of a dive on... Attempted dive, it looks almost like, but no, maybe it was just a retreat or an attempt to move in on a different base. Observers checking this bottom right here, but it looks like, yeah, the Dragoons are slowly working their way here down to this bottom base. So this will get lost again, but Crazio has pretty much broken out of the contain and is taking over this left side of the map. Charging in to possibly contest this base here, which is almost mined out in this top left base. So that's going to be worry for Stardust as the main and natural are mined out right now. It is just on the 3 mining bases, a 4th base down here in the bottom right being set up, getting found by the vultures and again harassed. And there's really not much army out on the field, just 8 zealots and 11 dragoons right now. Little stasis going on, but there's really not much. Okay, so there is a bit of army here that is able to be engaged and taken out. EMP going down to try and stop any further recalls from the Arbiters. Looks like one of the Arbiters was missed with that EMP. This EMP does take a moment to actually cast. It's not an instant thing. There's a little missile that has to go to the spot that you targeted, and then it hits in an area of effect. It looks like Crazio's army reaching the natural here. This top left has now been cleaned up. Crazy actually expanding to this natural here. The two vultures weren't able to clean this up on their own, but probes attempting to transfer, getting caught here. Yeah, I think this natural is able to fall, but it looks like Crazy has kind of turned their attention to this mined out base here. That's allowing some army of Stardust to get out and head toward the south, but there's a huge detachment of tanks here moving up. This base might be forced to lift, but I think in the end Stardust is just not going to have the resources to be able to keep the fight up, essentially. It's just going to be starved out of minerals and gas here, and really needs to, instead of trying to take out a base, just secure more bases for itself. As the natural is getting shelled, or actually the natural and the main even getting shelled from the low ground here. I think Grazio is going to handle this one pretty well. Very nice handling of that initial contain by Stardust, and then yeah, Stardust just keeps throwing units away to the tanks without really getting much for it. And so, I mean, it's, you can look at it and say, well, it's spending its money, it's doing a really good job, its money's really low, but its money keeps getting really low because it keeps bleeding units and having to replace them, instead of hitting a steady 200 and then getting a good even exchange or trade with the Terran player, and then spending that bank it creates to remax very quickly, which is sort of the power of Protoss, right? You can remax into a more powerful army faster than Terran can do so, so you really need to score tank kills in any sort of trade with Terran, or if you whittle down the Vultures, you know, you hope that they advance without actually replacing them. Vultures starting to trip over themselves and just really get mixed up here and not being as effective with DPS, but at this point, Stardust's army refusing to engage here. There is this base here, but it's just 2 cannons. Looks like infrastructure may be starting to be replaced there, but we'll speed up a little bit again. As Crazio cleans up the last of the buildings here. And now there's an attempt to rebuild, but it's just going to be too little too late as Crazio's army comes up here. Zealots attempting to be made, but the gas was never taken, although there is like a 6k gas bank for Stardust. And with that, Crazio... Oh, wait, there's a couple of tech buildings left up here. But with that, Crazio essentially will take the win. And we will move on to our next game of the day. And our last game of today, a little bit of a shorter cast. It's the last game listed in the recommended channel, and unfortunately I don't have time to go looking for additional games for today's cast. Don't worry though, next week, if there's nothing in the recommended games, I will go ahead and hunt down games to cast. And if there are only like a couple of recommended games, I will also should have the time to hunt down some casts. I've been a bit busy with the Coach Pupil League, which, if you like to play StarCraft at all, but you're not very good, or you're learning, or, you know, you're like only C rank or something like that, or even, you know, ANS rank, there's actually no limit to who can join and play. There is the Coach Pupil League, also known as CPL, And it's a really fun league. You get, you know, they separate into teams, and then each week one team plays another team. Like the teams get paired up for matches. You know, if you don't have to play, if you don't want to, but you can volunteer to be put in the lineup for a week, and then you get an opponent, and you get the practice, and you know what race they're going to play, you know what maps you're going to play on, and you get to, you know, play out your match. Currently in the semifinals, so I had a match I had to prep for. And while that, at the time of recording this particular game, that match is complete, kind of cut into time for prepping for this particular cast. So apologize for that. But next week we should have a longer, more regular length video. To this game at hand, though, we have a Rack Hammer as the teal Zerg up at the top right of Benzene, and we have Crazio as the Peach tearing down in the bottom left. The initial scout did get picked off, and here we have a couple of Zerglings coming across the map here. Gonna go ahead and chase this second scout back. We've got another group of few Zerglings not gonna run past the bunker. Now that there's like about 6 of them here, they could attempt to run by, but there is a Vulture, and the Vulture would be able to clean them up, I think, before too much damage is done. And actually, that Vulture is gonna go ahead and push forward and get some damage on these forwardlings. There's no... So this is a 3-hatch style with the 3rd hatch at a 3rd base. Excuse me. And this 3rd is actually really exposed. If Crazio were to find that with a Vulture, that 3rd would just be absolutely mopped up, as there is no defenses there. And interestingly enough, has the creep colonies, but has not morphed a single sunken. I'm a little bit worried that it wouldn't have enough advanced notice of these Vultures, and here come the Vultures. We'll see if they are able to get by. Or, okay, no, they are going to find this 3rd where a creep colony was placed, and now all of the creep colonies being quickly morphed into... hold on one second. Sorry about that, I had to sneeze. But now that sneeze is done here, the Vulture's trying to find a spot at this 3rd, but the Sunkens were in time to really prevent major damage. A little bit of damage happened, but in the end, not too much. We've got Mulisks on the way here. This getting destroyed actually might work against Crazio if they're able to do that, because that's then another entrance into the main that they're going to have to worry about here, but it will help if they get to expand up to that north with the pathing. Goliaths are coming out. The first batch of Mulisks are out. It looks like there is some room to harass here. And the Goliath gets picked off here, and the Charm Booster's not quite done yet, but there are some turrets around the command centers, so... I think as long as the Mulisks just sort of stick to the edges, there's definitely space to harass here. Almost got that turret. If it had focused the turret, if it would continue to focus the turrets, I think it could take them out, but it's like, deals critical damage and then backs off while they get repaired. Now granted, there's just 7 Mulisks here right now. Looks like production has switched back into drones. That worker count is growing, and we're also double expanding behind this to a 4th and 5th base, both gas bases. This 3rd is a mineral only, so it will be up to 4 gas relatively soon here. A lot of turrets down right now for Crazio. We're really trying to zone out those Mulisks and keep them from really doing any damage anywhere. It's interesting, the trail of turrets coming out of the natural choke as well. Wait, what? Oh. Okay, so what is the gun being used on? It's that building there. It's a little poke with the Mulisks again, and now we've got our drones. We're going ahead and switching into Hydralisk. We've got some Queens out. Potentially... Oh, Queen unfortunately danced in range of that Goliath a little too much. But Queens with Broodling would be good to see against the tanks. Good mine pickoffs there with the Hydralisks, but charging in with this small Hydralisk force, I don't know, I mean, it is pushing a little bit forward, but there's this tank on the high ground that's going to just absolutely shred those Hydralisks. I'd like to see a Rack Hammer get up to like a 200 army or something with those Hydralisks, and then go into smash the Terran, but really doing a good job of just expanding everywhere. Making more bases now. Mutalisk's doing a good job of dealing with the stray vultures that are getting out on the map. The Dancing Queen is pretty funny too. I think there's only like 3 tanks. Yeah, there's only 3 tanks out for Crazio, so not going very tank heavy here. Despite the switch into Hydralisks. Radiate going down on the Queen. The Queen's gonna need to do something with its energy before it's just hurting those Hydralisks, and then it goes pop. And that Overlord too. That Overlord's almost dead. Good use of a Radiate there by Crazio on the high priority target there. The Queen. Queens take forever to get their energy. Rackhammer is slowly building up a supply here, but it's about even in supply with the Terran player here, and doing another charge in, I don't like it because of the tanks. It's a bad Guardian morph there, it looked like. Very exposed. And just, yeah, I think the problem here is just over-aggressiveness from a Rackhammer. It just does not have the supply to actually eat into this Terran army. It needs numbers, it needs its queens to go ahead and take care of these tanks. And actually, I don't see any more queens in production. There's no more out. But it might not have even got Broodling. Yeah, I don't see Spawn Broodling. So maybe it was out there just for Parasite and or Ensnare. Spawn Broodling on tanks would be delicious to see. It sucks to lose your tanks as a Terran player to Spawn Broodling. Because it's like, for 150 energy, you too can just take out a tank. Yeah, Crazio now starting to move across the map, and despite all the bases that a Rackhammer has, it just can't get the numbers that it needs. It keeps throwing units into the meat grinder here, that is the tanks and Goliaths. The tank count just continuing to climb. I like the attempted use of the Guardians, but Goliaths are just a lot better at dealing with Guardians than, say, Marines are. If this were a bio army, the Guardians would, the Guardians would do pretty well, but yeah, the Goliaths are just going to tear that apart. Crazio marching all the way across the map to where the third is. Looks like Crazio is planning on going straight for the heart, take out the main bases, take out the tech. Not even worried about the side mining bases. Crazio has taken over their side of the map as well, and really that's all they need in this scenario here. So Crazio almost up to 200 supply. Yeah, with that, I think Crazio here. Going to go ahead and clean this up. Get up into the main here, so I mean, the Rackhammer's plan, I like it. It's pretty solid. Like I said, the problem with at least this particular game is it's just overly aggressive. It wasn't letting itself build up the sizable army that it needs. It does get the upgrades though, which is good to see, but when you're switching into like Hydralisk like that up against Mech Army, you can't really attack into an entrenched position like that with those tanks without a way of taking out those tanks, and then you can't keep throwing small groups of army into the mech force, because like these SCVs, they could just repair any damaged units, so it's not like you're going to really be able to take out the mech army over time with like little chip damage here and there. You really have to come with a force that's just going to absolutely smash. Interesting barracks at a starport being built in the middle of the map. Crazy, just looking for space to throw buildings, and that's where it can find it, because a lot of maps have a lot of unbuildable terrain, such I think as this positions here are not buildable. Irradiate's going down on the Overlords. And the bottom base is down here. I'm going to get cleaned up by Crazio, and then we'll have the bottom right probably get cleaned up, and this top middle one here. And while this is closing up here, I want to say thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate the support. Again, the Coach People League, really good learning league. If you are interested in getting better at StarCraft, go ahead. I highly recommend checking it out. The last vestige, the last stronghold of the Zerg. Will they hold? They've got 2 creep colonies and a sunken. I don't think they're going to. But again, thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it. I try to get these out as regularly as I can each week. If you've got an interest in casting as well, you know, hit us up, let us know. We are looking for more additional casters to help with the workload of producing these casts. If you want to give it a try, or if you have some casting experience and you want to, you know, watch some fun games and get your voice out there, let us know. But in the meantime, see you next week. Until then, though, take care, everybody.